This is the tale of two curriculums. Just before the world went crazy and a pandemic shut everything down, a homeschool mom offered her English program for free to the masses. When people asked what she recommended for math, she said RightStart. RightStart is known across the homeschooling community for its thorough hands-on approach and abacus counting strategies. It was a match made in heaven, the English program and the math program. Until it wasn't. This English program grew so big that it started to include science units and history units and grew big enough that it became The Good and the Beautiful, which also included a brand new math program. And so the two companies parted ways. So actually there was very little drama in the parting ways between these two. It's actually a really heartwarming story, so if you want to find out more information, you can check the link down in the description box for another video. But it made me wonder, if these two companies started out linked together, how similar were they? Was The Good and the Beautiful just a watercolor version of RightStart Math? Had The Good and the Beautiful created a free math program that rivaled RightStart with its high price tag? I was going to find out. I downloaded The Good and the Beautiful free math program for my thorough look through of their kinder level. This is what I found.
Right, okay, I want their free access. And I want their Math K. That's one thing that I am not overly fond of. It's not like super convenient. It's not obvious on their website. Kind of have to jump around a little bit. Okay, downloading it. This is exciting. I'm excited. Excited to see what their math is. So obviously The Good and the Beautiful's math is beautiful. I love the colors. I love how it looks. About the course. Okay, course book serves as a teacher's guide and a student book. That's pretty standard for the language arts as well. How long are the lessons? 10 to 12 minutes. That's pretty standard, I think, for a kindergarten level. Is there an answer key? This is supposed to be so basic. You don't need one. In RightStart, they do have the answers listed out for you. It's not because they don't think that you can't figure it out. It's mainly a level of convenience, which I find really nice.
So right off the bat, the book is meant for the student. It is student-led. It's a student workbook. RightStart's course book is teacher-focused. It sits in front of the teacher the entire time. The student never references it. And this is the workbook. Do you see how small the workbook is? It's just itty bitty. And occasionally they'll pull this out to do some basic math work.
All right, so here's a Unit 1 overview. So you should be able to, at the end of this, identify 0 through 20, write numbers through 0 through 20, count to 100, memorize a phone number. That's nice. All right, well, let's look at lesson number 1 to start us off.
So the layout of the lessons are very similar. In The Good and the Beautiful, you'll have some kind of a warm-up at the beginning, and it's usually color identification and counting, because their primary goal by the end of this book is that your child will be able to count 1 through 100. And so they have a lot of counting practicing activities with occasional like shape identification and color recognition. The RightStart warm-up is a review work of what you did in the previous lesson.
Did you know that you need a math to design a fork or a pillow? Math is needed to design almost everything you use every day. Math patterns all around us in nature. This is so The Good and the Beautiful. Place 2 yellow couches anywhere you want on the house. Cut the items on the next page. Oh, look how cute that is. Got a house and you cut out all the furniture. Count up to 15. Wait, count to 15. Okay, so that's a big difference between RightStart.
What's weird about English numbers is that teen numbers are the only different numbers than their base 10. So for instance, instead of saying 11, 12, 13, RightStart says 110, 1, 110, 2, 110, 3. And this gives a very strong number sense because you're introducing having 10 as a foundation with an additional 1, 2, 3. I think most math programs do it in this traditional way, which doesn't surprise me that The Good and the Beautiful opted to do that instead. But I do wish that this is something they had carried over from the RightStart program because it does give such a strong number sense. Another thing I was noticing with these early lessons is that it was introducing a digit number instead of an amount tied to a number.
And really reinforcing this is a number 4 instead of actually showing what 4 looks like.
As I looked through these lessons, I realized that The Good and the Beautiful needed their students to be able to read. Their whole program rests on children being able to identify digit numbers first.
That's a huge difference. So that looks like the biggest thing for the next so many lessons is that they are trying to get a digit number and a sound number together. This is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, as opposed to showing here's one object. This is 1. Here's 2 objects. This is 2.
Who is the number of the day?
The issue I have with this is that digit numbers are abstract representation of actual numbers. 4 is not the digit of 4. 4 is an amount. To give children a strong number sense, they need to be able to associate numbers with an actual amount as opposed to what they read in a book.
Memorize a parent's phone number. Okay, so it doesn't do anything? Wait. Memorize a parent's phone number. So they don't have any kind of like practice here, write the parent's. That's cheating. Oh, I'm really disappointed in that. I was really excited to see them say, we're going to write your parents' phone number out, and now we're going to practice saying the numbers out. That's cheating. Oh, that's too bad. Okay, well, yeah, all right, whatever. Tell you a story about a little girl named Rosie. She lives by a forest. Every morning she opens her window and listens. So they just told me a huge story about Rosie. And what Rosie really wants is a rabbit. What the heck? Circle the one you would have chosen. You pick out the cute little furry bunny. They do this all the time in their English. It's always like, pick the cute puppy or pick the cute kitten. Each 10 frame needs 3 carrots. Draw enough carrots on each 10 frame. So that
it kind of also seemed to me that they were sacrificing the math to make it cute. RightStart's abacus work is never going to be as cute as bunnies, but children are going to be able to recognize it and enjoy it because it is math.
I see what they're trying to do here. It's very, very cute. I don't know if it gets you what you want, though. All right, and now they're talking about first, second, and third. That's also important for math, but this activity feels confusing, too. I feel like they're so focused on making everything beautiful that they are losing track of what they are trying to accomplish. 10 stick blocks. Oh, okay. So you're going to fill in the blocks to represent the numbers shown. So you have to count the blocks. This is a much better activity. This is a much better activity when you're counting and filling in. So before they had the shapes and the leaves that you were supposed to color. This does a lot more better things for your child.
This was probably the closest thing to abacus work that I saw in this book. The abacus is great because you can visualize large groups of numbers quickly and easily identify and break them apart. A 10 block like this, you can see exactly how much you have left, which leads to a healthy development for addition and subtraction work later in the future.
This is Angela. Her parents own a stuffed animal shop. Angela loves the stuffed animals. There's a lot of stories here. They're jumping into counting by tens on lesson 15. I feel like The Good and the Beautiful is like, we're going to just do all the things. We're going to do all the things and we're going to do it in the first month.
The Good and the Beautiful was such a tight spiral. I am still dizzy for how quickly they introduced new content. RightStart is considered a spiral program, but it is a spiral mastery. And they are constantly going back and reviewing concepts that they've already introduced through game work, through the warm-ups. And so it really masters the concept even as you're introducing and laying foundation for new work.
All right, so now they're talking about the concept of 0. That's great. How many counting sticks do I have in my hand? How many feathers grow on your nose? It's cute. I mean, like, you can't fault The Good and the Beautiful for not really trying to make math fun. But I do feel like they might take it to an extreme. Okay, and then they've got this. That's my house. Take a car from the math box. This feels like busy work. Feels like a busy work game. I think, they have a lot of games here where they've got their little cars and they're driving and it's really cute. It's a game that is like, math is fun.
I think The Good and the Beautiful missed the point with RightStart's games. So RightStart's games lay down foundational work for future concepts that are going to be introduced, as well as reviewing things that they have already gone over and gives you a strong number sense. Just does a lot of really beneficial things. I think The Good and the Beautiful were like, games. Those are fun. And a lot of them that they had in the kindergarten level were counting games, but the counting games didn't reinforce number sense. It was just kind of like, we're going to memorize all of our numbers. So
I'm having a little bit of a hard time with this. Oh my gosh. What did they do? Counting to 60 practice. Oh my gosh. I'm sensing a meltdown. Sarah has a bucket of wooden blocks. Her goal is to build the tallest tower. Let's count the blocks in her bucket because they're all different shapes and sizes and they're really small and they're really packed together and there's no clear delineation, like there isn't any clear rows. That makes my heart hurt. Oh, you have to count all of those? Circle the tower that uses 59 blocks? No, my kids would say no. Forget it. Like if this was me and I was sitting here, I'd be like, nope, let's go to the 100 chart. I'm sorry. That's a misfire. Number line practice. This is something I wish RightStart did more of. I don't think they give enough number line work.
Number lines do so many good things for your child. They set them up for counting in a fluid line, forwards, backwards, skip counting, addition practice, subtraction practice. Not only that, it also sets them up for measurement in the future. I mean, they do so many good things in math. And that is something I wish that RightStart used. They don't really have number lines, and I'm really glad to see the Good and the Beautiful implementing it so well in their program.
All right, here's some shapes. Connect the dots for shapes. Oh, that's a really clever way of doing it. That's excellent. I like that. Use the numbers on the ramp to help you write one more and one less than the number. So 12, 13, 14, 14, 15, 16. All right, I'm not a huge fan just because you could have easily gone 12, 13, 14, 15, just taken a box out that way. Literally recreate your own number line. I feel like a lot of this is just trying to trick the child into doing harder math. Math is not meant to trick you. Math is meant to make sense. And I think people who don't understand math are like, oh, well, we don't want to give it away. There's nothing wrong with giving it away. Giving away reinforces the idea that math makes sense. It is not a huge quest to figure out what math means.
Another hang-up I had while reviewing this is that the Good and the Beautiful intentionally made the problem harder than it needed to be in order to avoid the obvious answer. I think what's so great about early math is that the answer is obvious, that it does make sense. There's logic there. And reinforcing that is really good and beneficial for kids. Intentionally making math hard just for the sake of it doesn't benefit you, like at all. I felt a little frustrated by it. I think there's ways of making math a little more complex and have more depth to it, and it felt instead that they made it more confusing.
All right, choose a car, drive to the start. So 3 plus 2. So this is a memorization activity, and you guys all know how I feel about those. Longer and shorter. Look at the dots at the bottom of the page. We can use these dots to measure. How many dots? Oh, this is a great measuring activity. That's great. That's a great counting activity. That does a lot of good things. That's great. And then we've got an assessment, our first assessment, lessons 39
I personally
through 40.
love the way RightStart does their assessments. In the very beginning, it's just a bunch of game review. And if you have a child that's struggling with a particular concept, you just play the game a few more rounds until they get it. It's just a brilliant way of laying it out. So the Good and the Beautiful's assessment is mainly just a written assessment that mimics a lot of what their earlier worksheets were doing. So nothing is sprung on the child. Like none of it is like, this doesn't look familiar at all. It's very familiar. And I think that's important when you are giving an assessment, that it looks familiar. I also appreciated the fact that they had more review problems, although personally I would have preferred the review problems being on a different page instead of right underneath the original problems. That layout seemed kind of strange to me, but not a deal breaker.
So now we're doing Unit 2. Teacher tips. Watch the cues that your child is overwhelmed or frustrated. Don't push too far. I love that it gives you these pointers. RightStart does not have this sort of thing. I think it does at the very beginning of the book, but this reminder in the middle is so nice. That's really a great thing. And it just shows the heart of the Good and the Beautiful, that they really want you to meet your child where they are. All right, our hundreds chart. Oh, was one more than 99 100? Jesus once told about the shepherd who had the 100 sheep. I love that. That is so sweet. Very sweet. I love that. All right. Okay, so now we're already introducing time. So time isn't introduced to level A, RightStart, until the very end, and it's very, very basic. They go from 1 to 12. You're going to write the missing numbers. Excellent. Excellent. So you are practicing writing out your numbers and you're counting 1 through 12. Addition stories. Oh, so these are word problems. All those stories that we have read from the beginning are actually mini word problems, prepping them for picking out information that is important. I feel like The Good and the Beautiful does that a lot better than RightStart. RightStart doesn't have a bunch of really cute stories. It just doesn't. And their word problem is probably one of the weakest parts of their curriculum. All right, the calendar. Oh, we're talking about the calendar. RightStart does calendar work. I feel like it's not quite as fun. This is so much easier because you don't have to go dig up your own calendar. You can just, it's got it right here in your workbook. Oh, this shows the passing of time brilliantly. Do you see that? In May, you plant your seeds. In June, it sprouts. In July, it's dead because it's North Carolina. In August, you've got nothing. Heavier or lighter? Oh, good grief. Okay, so RightStart has an actual scale. Like they have an actual scale where you can say this is heavier and this is lighter. The fact that you're like a basketball versus a feather, this is all abstract.
It all comes down to cost. The Good and the Beautiful, we're really trying to make this program affordable to families without a large manipulative set. And the biggest time I noticed it was when they were trying to do weight and volume. In comparison, RightStart has an actual scale that you use, and it demonstrates weight very easily as well as volume. It has great activities with that. And so the comparison of it feels a little bit unfair because I can see that The Good and the Beautiful are trying to keep costs low, but it did sacrifice the math portion a little bit because of that.
Look, the scale even doesn't even say which one would be heavier or not. It's all the same. If you're going to be talking about the heavier item, then make the scale show you which one would be heavier. Oh my gosh. Okay, whatever. Now we're going to introduce money. I love these little cent tags. That's so cute. What a great idea. Stack the coins. Excellent. Excellent. Love it so much. Very cute. Wait, so you have just that one introduction about money and that's it? Oh, that was kind of lame. I mean, I know it's going to circle around again, but that was something that you could sit in for a little while. Measuring with centimeters. Oh, this is great. You've got your birds and you're measuring them. I wouldn't have chosen birds because birds are kind of an odd shape.
Also, it would have been very easy for The Good and the Beautiful to print out a ruler and have the child cut it out and measure it. I'm not quite sure why they didn't opt to do that.
Oh, so you have to drive your car. Oh, and then pay them the correct amount of money. That's a great activity. This is a great activity, and I'll tell you why. Because you are acting out a word problem. You are counting out the amount. You can skip count. You can use a variety of coins. That's a great activity that not only reinforces a concept, it builds foundations to other concepts as well. So you've got a course assessment, and then you are done. We did it. We finished it.
After going through their workbook, I was very interested to see how their Kinder manipulative set compared to RightStart's ginormous manipulative set.
So I got this in the mail. Not today, a little while ago. And I've already opened it because it had other books and because my children are monsters and they see a package and they go, hey, that's for me. And it's all wrapped. A lot smaller than I thought it would be. It is really cute though. Okay, so it's got a numbers 1 through 6 dice, numbers 7 through 12 dice, equation dice, 2 game pawns, 3 cards, and 15 counting sticks. It's pretty good. So it's really cute. How do you open? Oh, it's got that extra line there. Just like, a little touch. But there really isn't that much in here. So you've got your 3 cars. I mean, they're cute and they're well made. They're sturdy, but I mean, they're cars. Like I wouldn't consider this a math manipulative, something that wouldn't transfer for another math curriculum. And then you got this dice, the wooden die. They're functioning. Again, it doesn't transfer over to other math curriculums very easily, which I mean, I guess is true for a lot of math curriculums, right? And then it has 2 little pawns. I love the colors for them. And then it's got the little sticks for like all their little spatial reasoning and counting. So there were, how many did she say there were? 15. There's 15 counting sticks. I think what's nice is that They fit all in this compartment. So right now they're in baggies. Place for their pawns, place for their sticks, place for their cards, place for their dice. And it all fits neatly. There's not a whole lot to it. So here's what I'm thinking right now. I like how simplified it is. It is meant to be an easy, free download, right? So the manipulatives are just set up so you don't have to buy them. Families who cannot afford to buy the manipulative set do not have to. They can just do the download workbook and they're fine. And I admire that. I mean, and it wasn't especially expensive. Oh, so the math box is $20. I mean, just from a perspective of what a mom is going to want to have to get out when she's doing with a kindergartner, I think that's really fun, because even if a kindergartner dumps it out, even if a toddler dumps it out, it's not going to be that big of a deal to put it all back in. You know, there's a lot of benefits to the way it's laid out.
So these are completely different math programs, despite the Good and the Beautiful's origins. My preference is RightStart because they lay early math foundational skills so exceptionally well. There were a couple of things that the Good and the Beautiful did better than RightStart. I love that it's a free program, and for a free program, it does exceptionally well. RightStart, in my opinion, is worth the price tag. And if you're interested in more in-depth reviews of RightStart and the different levels, I'd check this playlist out next.